Reading from Srila Prabhupada Līlāmṛta, Volume 6, Chapter 6, chapter titled The Lame Man and the Blind Man. Ever since the BBT press marathon in the summer of 1975, the press had continued to keep up with Srila Prabhupada's writing. A sweet transcendental competition had developed between Prabhupada, his press, and the book distributors. In November of 1975, Prabhupada had written to one of the leading book distributors. The BBT says that they are publishing at the speed of my translating, and that you will distribute at the pace of publishing. That's nice, but still I am ahead in my translation work. They owe me now the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I am working already on the 7th canto. In recent months, however, Srila Prabhupada's literary output had been diminishing, mostly because of his involvement in management. His direct supervision of the construction of Bombay, his month-long managerial drive in Vrindavan, his struggle to heal a major ISKCON schism. Such activities were not conducive to writing. In Mayapur, when the devotees had failed to control the slamming of doors, he had complained bitterly that this heart-cracking sound interrupted his meditative translating. He explained that he sometimes thought for 2 or 3 days about a single purport before actually writing it. Actually, the word translating is incomplete in describing Srila Prabhupada's writing. Translating involved only the verses and synonyms. But Prabhupada's deepest meditations, what he referred to as his personal ecstasies, were his Bhaktivedanta purports. Composing the purports as well as translating the verses came best when he could think about them throughout the day, not just when he turned on his dictating machine at 1 a.m. He was translating the extremely grave and complex Vedic knowledge into a modern context, thus making it understandable to Western readers. And it was a great demanding task. To best speak to the people of the world through his Srimad Bhagavatam writings, Srila Prabhupada required a very conducive situation. After the Mayapur festival, therefore, he formulated an itinerary that, in about a month's time, would bring him to Hawaii. There he expected to find an atmosphere beneficial for his literary work. His traveling secretary, Pushta Krishna Swami, rode ahead to Hawaii shortly after the Mayapur festival. Prabhupada must do a lot of translating, so don't set up programs outside, and if there have to be guests, it must be restricted to 5 p.m. only until about 6:30 each evening. If these things are nicely arranged, then Prabhupada will stay some time to translate. Srila Prabhupada's itinerary also included another U.S. tour. His secretary rode ahead to Kirtanananda Swami in New Vrindavan. Prabhupada has revealed a bit more about things. He said that as time goes on, he is less and less concerned about seeing visitors. He mentioned that Aurobindo saw visitors only once a year on his birthday. Although Prabhupada deemed this is not possible now, I asked him where he would like to go for some time to translate. He said New Vrindavan, and he said he would go there after the Rath Yatra in New York. Hawaii, May 3, 1976. After brief visits in several Indian cities, as well as stops in Melbourne, Auckland, and Fiji, Srila Prabhupada arrived in Hawaii on schedule. Immediately he began to increase his writing. The devotees were keenly noting the number of digits he ran up each night on his dictating machine, which for them was like a measure of the benediction for all humanity. Whereas in India he had done usually no more than 100 digits a day, and sometimes none, in Hawaii his rate jumped to 200 and even 300, day after day. Hari Sari, who had accompanied Prabhupada from Vrindavan as his servant, wrote in his diary, "Prabhupada is translating like anything now, and he did 290 digits again last night." The digits are the indicator of the elapsed time on Prabhupada's dictaphone, which could translate to, in this case, it's a measurement of how much time is on the tape. But that Prabhupada used to be very economical with using the dictaphone, and he would shut it off in between each pause, as opposed to letting it run and record empty space. Continuing, the temple was in a quiet neighborhood with several acres of garden-like property. In the backyard stood a large, stately banyan tree, and in the front, the largest tulsi bushes anywhere in ISKCON. The devotees grew their own vegetables and flowers. Mangoes and coconuts were so plentiful that they were available free. The weather was sunny, interspersed with occasional showers. Prabhupada felt ill and could not sleep more than 1.5 hours at night and 1 or 2 hours during the day. But being transcendental, he used this inability to sleep as another way to increase his writing time. Despite his emphasis on writing, however, he continued lecturing in the temple, going on morning walks, holding discussions on the beach, and daily answering his email. Still, Hawaii was far from being like Vrindavan or Calcutta, where old friends and new admirers demanded hours of his time. Here, he was mostly alone with his trained staff. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki. So now we'll read a little bit from Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Madhya-līlā, chapter 19. And that is, let's see. This is Madhya-līlā, chapter 19. Lord Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Rupa Goswami. Text 165. As long as there is not the slightest fragrance of pure love of Krishna, which is the perfect medicinal herb for controlling Lord Krishna within the heart, the opulences of the material perfections known as the siddhis, the brahminical perfections, satya, samatha, tiksha, and so on, the trance of the yogis, and the monistic bliss of Brahman all seem wonderful for men. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. There are different types of perfections known as siddhi vraj, and also the perfections of achieving brahminical qualifications, yogic trance, and merging into the Supreme. All these material perfections are certainly very attractive for a mundane person, but their brilliance exists only as long as one does not take to devotional service. Devotional service can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme controller of all universal affairs. The 5 rasas, mellows in the transcendental world, are practiced by the inhabitants of Goloka Vrindavan in neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. All these please the Lord so much that He is controlled by the devotees. For instance, Mother Yashoda was so advanced in devotional service that Krishna agreed to be controlled by her stick. In other words, the 5 principal mellows are so great and glorious that they are able to control the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the material world, however, the so-called siddhis or perfections manifest their brightness only as long as one is not interested in devotional service. In other words, the perfection of the karmis, gyanis, yogis, and others remains attractive only as long as one does not come to the point of devotional service, which is so great and significant that it can control the Supreme Controller, Krishna. Text 166. When one is situated in pure devotional service, he develops love of Godhead. Therefore, let me describe some of the symptoms of pure devotional service. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 18:55, it is said, Bhakti mam abhijanati yavanyastasmi tattvataha. One cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in truth unless he takes to devotional service. Text 167. Anyabhilasata sunyam jnana-kama dhyānavatam anukulyena krishnānushonam bhakti uttama. When first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires. Knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy and fruit of action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. When first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy, and fruit of action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. Purport. This verse is also found in Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 1:11. As we can understand from the Bhagavad Gita 9:34 and 1865, the Supreme Personality of Godhead wants everyone to think of Him always, manmana bhava madbhakta. Everyone should become His devotee, not the devotee of a demigod. Everyone should engage in His devotional service, including archana, deity worship, in the temple. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Everyone should offer obeisances from moment to moment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are the desires of the Supreme Lord, and one who fulfills his desires favorably is actually a pure devotee. Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto Him, and devotional service means preaching this gospel all over the world. The Lord says openly in the Bhagavad Gita 1869, Na chatasma manushyesu kaschin me priyakritamaha. One who preaches the gospel of the Bhagavad Gita for the benefit of all is most dear to Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord so that human society can be perfectly organized from all angles of vision, politically, socially, economically, philosophically, and religiously. From any point of view, human society can be reformed by the Krishna consciousness movement. Therefore, one who spreads this philosophy of Krishna consciousness for the benefit of all conditioned souls in the universe is perfect in pure devotional service. The criterion is that a devotee must know what Krishna wants him to do. This understanding can be achieved through the medium of a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Krishna. Śrīla Rupa Goswami advises, Adau Guru Vashrayam. One who is serious in wanting to render pure devotional service to the Lord must take shelter of a spiritual master who comes in a disciplic succession from Krishna. Evam parampara praptam imam rajasyo viduhu. Bhagavad Gita 4:2. Without accepting a bona fide spiritual master coming in disciplic succession, one cannot find out the real purpose of devotional service. Therefore, one has to accept the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and agree to be directed by him. The first business of a pure devotee is to satisfy his spiritual master, whose only business is to spread Krishna consciousness. And if one can satisfy the spiritual master, Krishna is automatically satisfied. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasada. This is the success of devotional service. This is the meaning of the word anukulyena, that is, favorable devotional service to the Lord. A pure devotee has no plans other than those for the Lord's service. He is not interested in attaining success in mundane activities. He simply wants success in the progress of devotional service. For a devotee, there cannot be worship of others or demigod worship. A pure devotee does not engage himself in such pseudo-devotional service. He is interested only in satisfying Krishna. If one lives only for the satisfaction of Krishna, it does not matter whether he belongs to this order of life or that order of life. One's only business should be to satisfy Krishna. This process is completely manifest in the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement. It has been actually proved that the entire world can accept devotional service without failure. One simply has to follow the instructions of the representative of Krishna. Text 168. A pure devotee must not cherish any desire other than to serve Krishna. He should not offer worship to the demigods or to mundane personalities. He should not cultivate artificial knowledge which is devoid of Krishna consciousness. And he should not engage himself in anything other than Krishna conscious activities. One must engage all one's purified senses in the service of the Lord. This is the favorable execution of Krishna conscious activities. Text 169. These activities are called Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. If one renders such pure devotional service, he develops his original love for Krishna in due course of time. In Vedic literatures like the Pancharatras and Srimad Bhagavatam, these symptoms are described. Purport. One has to develop his devotional service under the directions of a pure devotee, the spiritual master, and in accordance with the Vedic directions given in the Pancharatra and Bhagavat systems. The Pancharatra system includes methods of temple worship, and the Bhagavata system includes the spreading of Krishna conscious philosophy through the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam and in discussion of philosophy with people who are interested. Through discussion, one can create an interest and understanding of the Pancharatra and Bhagavata systems. Text 170. Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all the senses. Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and one's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. So that verse is Sarvapati Vinir Muktam Tat Paratvaina Nimalam Rishikena Rishikesa Sevanam Bhakti Uchite. Purport. This verse, quoted from the Narada Pancharatra, is found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.12. Text 171. Madguna Shuti Matrena Mayi Sarva Gahasye Manogatir Vichchinna Yata Gangam Basobunto. Just as the celestial waters of the Ganges flow unobstructed into the ocean, so when my devotees simply hear of me, their minds come to me. I reside in the hearts of all. Purport. This verse and the following three verses are quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 3:29, 11 through 14. They were spoken by Lord Krishna in the form of Kapila Dev. Text 172. Lakshanang Bhakti Yogasya Nirgunasya Yadaritam Athoitakiya Vritita Ya Bhakti Purushottame. These are the characteristics of transcendental loving service to Purushottam, Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is causeless and it cannot be obstructed in any way. Text 173. Shaloki Sharchisamipya Sarupya Kattavam Apyuta Diyamanang Nagrinanti Vina Mat Sevanam Janaha. My devotees do not accept Shalokya, Sarsti, Sarupya, Samipya, or oneness with me, even if I offer these liberations in preference to serving me. Text 174. Seva Bhakti Yogakya Atyantika Udarita Inat Vrajya Chigunang Madbhava Yopadayate. Bhakti Yoga, as described above, is the ultimate goal of life. By rendering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one transcends the modes of material nature and attains the spiritual position on the platform of direct devotional service. Text 175. Bhukti Mukti Adi Bancha Yadda Mane Hoy Sadhana Kaila Prema Utpana Nahoy. If one is infected with the desire for material enjoyment or material liberation, cannot rise to the platform of pure loving service unto the Lord, even though he may superficially render devotional service according to the routine regulator principles. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that if one maintains within his heart the desire to enjoy the result of good work, or being embarrassed by the material world, the desire to get out of material enjoyment, one will never be able to attain the transcendental mellows of devotional service. In other words, one must not desire material profit when rendering devotional service, even if one follows all the 64 regulated principles. He cannot attain pure devotional service with a contaminated heart. So we'll take up next time with text 176. Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta ki, Śrī Radha Govinda Dev ki, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki. They're in the Nectar Devotion.